expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Hebrew ebook before it's gone.
Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית בשלוש דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד. Hi, I'm Yana. It's a pleasure to meet you. In this series, we're going to learn basic Hebrew expressions. It's super easy, and it only takes 3 minutes. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to introduce yourself in Hebrew. In Hebrew, there is no formal and informal language. You can use this introduction in both cases and keep it simple. However, in Hebrew, there is a difference between male and female language. Let's first see how Israeli people introduce themselves in a simple way. Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד. Hi, I'm Yana. It's a pleasure. Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד. Start by saying Shalom, אני, then saying your name. Shalom, אני יאנה. Finally say נעים מאוד. Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד. And now let's see the same sentence if you wish to be more specific in addressing the person you are introduced to. If you're introducing yourself to a woman, you should say Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. Hi, I'm Yana. It's a pleasure to meet you. Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. If you are talking to a man, you should say Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. Hi, I'm Yana. It's a pleasure to meet you. Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. So, what has changed from the previous introduction? Let's take a close look at this together. The last part of the introduction has been changed based on the gender of the person you are talking to. Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך for a woman versus Shalom, אני יאנה. נעים מאוד להכיר אותך for a man. אני, in this case, has not been changed, and in both cases stands for I am, regardless of your gender. The last sounds of the last word changes, however. אותך, if you are talking to a woman, and אותך, if you are speaking to a man. One more time. The simple way to introduce yourself in Hebrew is Shalom, אני יאנה, נעים מאוד. In case you want to personalize the greeting, you say Shalom, אני יאנה, נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. Shalom, אני יאנה, נעים מאוד להכיר אותך. Now it's time for Yana's insights. When you introduce yourself, it's a good habit to shake hands in Israel. If you don't want to worry about using the right word for men and women, just say נעים מאוד, as I said at the beginning of this lesson. There is no cultural importance if you add the last part to the introduction. It just makes the sentence more complete. Do you know how to say thank you in Hebrew? You will learn how to say this and many other words in the next lesson. עד הפעם הבאה. Till next time. Shalom, אני יאנה. Hi there, I'm Yana. Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית בשלוש דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. In the last lesson, we learned how to introduce ourselves in Hebrew. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use good manners as we thank people. אתם מוכנים? Are you ready? אז בואו נתחיל. So let's start. There are several ways to thank someone. Let's start with the easiest. It's just one word. תודה. תודה. תודה means thank you. When saying thank you very much, you just need to add רבה. תודה רבה. תודה רבה. רבה means a lot. So תודה רבה is like saying thank you very much. During the last lesson, we mentioned two ways of addressing someone, depending on his or her gender. Toda or toda rabba can be used with anyone. But in case you want to personalize the greeting, there is another phrase you should use. If you want to thank a woman, you say toda rabba lach. Toda rabba lach. Now, if you want to thank a man, you say toda rabba lecha. Toda rabba lecha. Let's break this phrase down. Lach means something like to you when you're talking to a woman. Toda rabba lach is thank you very much. Lecha is to you when you're talking to a man. Toda rabba lecha is thank you very much. How do you answer? It's easy. There are two ways to answer. The first one is simple. You're welcome. Bevakasha. Bevakasha. It's the simplest way to answer. But it is more polite to say en be'ad ma. En be'ad ma. Its literal meaning is it's nothing, and it is a common and polite way to respond to someone thanking you. So when someone is saying toda or toda rabba to you, we can simply reply with bevakasha or en be'ad ma. Now it's time for Yana's insights. If you are not sure about whether to use toda rabba lach or toda rabba lecha, keeping it simple is always your safest bet. Toda can be used with just about anyone, anywhere, and anytime. Do you know what lehitraot means? In our next lesson, you'll learn this and other greetings in Hebrew. תודה רבה, ועד הפעם הבאה. Shalom, אני יאנה. Hi everybody, I'm Yana. Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית בשלוש דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. In the last lesson, we learned how to be grateful to people by saying תודה. In this lesson, we learned some of the most common greetings used in Israel. אתם מוכנים? Are you ready? אז בואו נתחיל. So let's start. The most used greeting is Shalom. Shalom. We also saw it in the first lesson. Shalom simply means hi or hello. It can also mean goodbye. We use it when we meet, but also can use it when we part. Shalom means something like peace, so it makes the greeting very special. It is common to say shalom in both informal and formal situations, and at any time of the day. In the morning, you can also greet people with Boker Tov. Boker Tov, which means good morning. Boker is morning, and Tov is good. During the evening, we also say Erev Tov. Erev Tov. Erev is Hebrew for evening, so Erev Tov means good evening. Boker Tov and Erev Tov are used when we meet someone, but when we leave, we don't say them again. Another way to say goodbye in Hebrew is lehitraot. Lehitraot. It is actually more common to use lehitraot than shalom when leaving. But most people in Israel just say bye. Bye! Now you can greet people in many different ways in Hebrew. Let's review them all again. When meeting people in formal and informal situations, shalom. In the morning until the afternoon we say boker tov, and in the evening erev tov. When living in any situation, lehitraot, or simply bye. It's easy, isn't it? Now it's time for Yana's insights. In formal situations, Israeli people commonly greet each other by shaking hands. On the other hand, if we meet someone we are very friendly with, we kiss each other on one cheek. Don't be afraid to do it with your Israeli friends. It's normal. During the next lesson, we'll learn the meaning of the phrase אתה מדבר אנגלית or את מדברת אנגלית. Do you already know it? We'll be waiting to talk about it with you in our next עברית בשלוש דקות lesson. להתראות. Bye! Shalom, ani Yana. Hi everybody, I'm Yana. Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית ב3 דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. In the last lesson, we learned the most common forms of greetings in Hebrew. Do you remember them? In this lesson, we're going to learn a very useful phrase. Do you speak English? If you find yourself in a situation where you need assistance in English, this phrase can be a lifesaver. And because you're asking it in Hebrew, you can be sure that everyone will understand what you're saying, even if the answer is no. As already mentioned in previous lessons, in Hebrew there is a difference between male and female speech. So if you want to ask a woman, say, את מדברת אנגלית? את מדברת אנגלית? In Hebrew, verbs change depending on the pronoun that is used, according to the gender of both the speaker and the addressee. At, in this case, is the female pronoun for you. So the verb מדברת, which means speak, refers to a female. For example, if I said, I speak English, it will be אני מדברת אנגלית. אני, as we learned already, means I am. Ani is the only way you can say I am in Hebrew, regardless of one's gender. Then, מדברת is the female conjugation for speak or speaking. So, אני מדברת אנגלית will be used only by a female speaker. On the other hand, if you're asking a man if he speaks English, you say, אתה מדבר אנגלית? אתה מדבר אנגלית? אתה, in this case, is the male pronoun for you. So the verb מדבר, which means speak, refers to a man only. So if you're a man and want to say, I speak English, it will be אני מדבר אנגלית. It is important to notice that in Hebrew the pronoun and the verb change according to female, male, and also to singular or plural of the same sentence. So basically there are 4 ways to say each phrase. But don't worry, we will talk more about that later. For now, please only remember that you can use both את מדברת אנגלית and אתה מדבר אנגלית only if you're addressing one person. So let's review them once again. את מדברת אנגלית if you're asking a woman, and אתה מדבר אנגלית if you're asking a man. Adding סליחה, excuse me, the sentence becomes even more polite. סליחה, את מדברת אנגלית? סליחה, את מדברת אנגלית? Or, סליחה, אתה מדבר אנגלית? סליחה, אתה מדבר אנגלית? The responses you will receive could be one of these 3. כן, yes, כן. קצת, a little. קצת. לא, אני לא מדבר אנגלית. Or, לא, אני לא מדברת אנגלית. No, I don't speak English. לא, אני לא מדבר אנגלית. לא, אני לא מדברת אנגלית. To make every sentence negative in Hebrew, you only have to add לא before the verb, which simply means no. It's easy, isn't it? Now it's time for Yana's insights. For those of you who are not only English speakers, you can obviously use this question with any language you need. Israeli people study other European languages at school, so maybe you will get lucky. Just substitute אנגלית with רוסית for Russian, איטלקית for Italian, ספרדית for Spanish, and גרמנית for German. In this lesson, we mentioned the expression סליחה. But did you know that this could also be used as an apology? In the next lesson, we will learn this and other ways to apologize in Hebrew. It's never too late to show your good manners with Israeli people. I'll see you in the next עברית ב3 דקות lesson. להתראות! Shalom, ani Yana. Hi everybody, I'm Yana. Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית בשלוש דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. In the last lesson, we learned the phrase סליחה, את מדברת אנגלית, or סליחה, אתה מדבר אנגלית. Excuse me, do you speak English? We mentioned the word סליחה, which means excuse me in Hebrew. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to use סליחה and other words when apologizing in Hebrew. סליחה is a very common word and can be used in many situations. We can use סליחה in both formal and informal occasions, such as when we are ordering something in bars or restaurants. For example, סליחה, קפה אחד בבקשה. Excuse me, one coffee please. סליחה, קפה אחד, בבקשה. Do you remember what בבקשה means? We can also use it when asking a question. סליחה, איפה רחוב דיזינגוף? Excuse me, where is Dizengoff Street? Sometimes we also hear people say, סליחה, which means, excuse me, when we want to draw somebody's attention. Also, in a situation when you want to make your way through a crowd, for example, סליחה is used. Israeli people use סליחה also for apologizing. For example, if you accidentally bump into a person while making your way through that crowd. We also use the word אני מצטער or אני מצטערת if you really want to apologize. You also might hear this phrase translated as forgive me or I'm sorry in English. אני מצטערת. אני מצטערת if you're a woman, and אני מצטער. אני מצטער if you're a man. The phrase אני מצטער or אני מצטערת has a deeper meaning of apology than סליחה, although both mean I'm sorry. אני is I am, regardless of your gender, but the verb be sorry changes according to your gender. So מצטערת is I'm sorry or I apologize if it's a woman, and אני מצטער if it's a man. If you feel really bad about something and want to deepen the apology even more, you can just add מאוד to your apology, which simply means very much. We already used it in the lesson about self-introductions. Remember? Shalom, אני Yana, נעים מאוד. You can also add מאוד to get אני מאוד מצטערת. אני מאוד מצטערת for a woman, or אני מאוד מצטער. אני מאוד מצטער for a man. It simply translates as I'm really sorry into English. But please remember that you cannot use מאוד with סליחה. Now it's time for Yana's insights. If you are not sure about what will be the proper phrase to use as an apology, it's always your safest bet to simply use סליחה. In this way, Israeli people will definitely appreciate your politeness. Are you able to count in Hebrew? In the next lesson, we will learn the numbers in Hebrew from 1 to 10. Hint, we already learned how to say 1 in this class. I'll be waiting for you in our next עברית בשלוש דקות lesson. להתראות ועד הפעם הבאה. Shalom, ani Yana. Hi everybody, I'm Yana. Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית בשלוש דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. In the last lesson, we learned some words used when apologizing in Hebrew, including סליחה and אני מצטערת. אני מצטער. In this lesson, we are going to learn numbers in Hebrew. Yes, numbers. מספרים, from 1 to 10. And you are going to learn them in only 3 minutes, בשלוש דקות. You already know the first number from last lesson and can make a full sentence. Do you remember? קפה אחד, בבקשה. Ready? Let's start. אחד. אחד. שתיים. שתיים. שלוש. שלוש. ארבע. ארבע. חמש. חמש. שש. שש. שבע. שבע. שמונה. שמונה. תשע. תשע. And עשר. עשר. Okay, now repeat after me. I'll say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. Ready? אחד. שתיים. שלוש. ארבע. חמש. שש. שבע. שמונה. תשע. עשר. Great job! What is before אחד? Do you know? It's אפס. אפס. You don't have any more excuses. You can give your friends your cell phone number in Hebrew. Let's try together. We'll use the phrase המספר שלי הוא, which means my number is. המספר שלי הוא. המספר שלי הוא 337 122 4968. Can you read it by yourself? 3 3 7 1 2 2 4 9 6 8. Perfect. Now it's time for Yana's insights. When you travel in Israel, it's a good idea to start paying attention to the bus numbers, street numbers, dates, hours, and the local money, the shekel. It's the best practice to remember. You can start now if you are at your hometown to practice Hebrew numbers in your daily life. Do you know the Hebrew word for 100? In the next lesson, we are going to learn the numbers from 11 to 100 in Hebrew. Your task now is to practice the numbers we studied in this lesson, from 1 till 10. להתראות ועד הפעם הבאה. ביי! Shalom, אני Yana. Hi everybody, I'm Yana. Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית ב3 דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. In the last lesson, we learned the numbers from 1 to 10. Have you forgotten? Here, I'll tell you again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you remember how to say your phone number? And now let's continue from 11. 11 11 12 12 13 14 15 16 16 17 17 18 18 19 19. And finally we have 20. 20. Okay, now repeat after me. I'll say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20. These numbers may seem harder to remember, but you really just have to memorize slight changes in pronunciation of 1 to 10, and just add esre after numbers starting from 10. Let's not stop at 20. Counting from 11 to 100 is super easy. Now I'll give you the tens. 30 30 40 40 50 50 60 60 70 70 80 80 90 90 100 100. While you have to memorize a few of these numbers, there are a couple of tricks that will make memorizing them incredibly easy. All the tens are basically the numbers 1 to 10 with slight changes, but always end up with im. For example, 3 is 3 and 30 is 30. 3 30. Let's take another example. Do you remember what 5 is? 5. So to make it 50, you change it to 50. 5 50. And 8 will make 80. 8 80. The last thing to learn today is how to form compound numbers above 20. This is also super easy. Take the tens and simply add the numbers you learned in the previous lesson. But don't forget to add ve when you're making compound numbers over 20. Ve means and. So basically, if you count 22, you say 22, meaning 20 and 2. It is very important, so don't forget that. Let's try it out. How would you say 56 in Hebrew? Let's take it step by step. 50 is 50, and then add the tiny ve and 6, 6. 56. After only 2 lessons, you are now able to count to 100 in Hebrew. In the next lesson, we are going to put your number knowledge to use. Do you have all the skills you need to go shopping in Israel? If not, I'll be waiting for you in our next עברית ב3 דקות lesson. להתראות ועד הפעם הבאה. Shalom, אני יאנה. Hi everybody, I'm Yana. Welcome to HebrewPod101.com's עברית ב3 דקות, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn Hebrew. In the last lesson, we learned how to count in Hebrew. I hope you spent some time practicing the numbers, because they will come in handy today. We're going to learn how to go shopping in Israel. Before we go, you need to know how to say how much is it. כמה זה עולה? כמה זה עולה. כמה is how much. זה is this for an object. And עולה is costs. Are you ready to go shopping? Let's go! You see something you like and want to ask the shop clerk how much it costs. The first thing to say to a shop clerk is סליחה. Do you remember what that means? Excuse me. סליחה, כמה זה עולה? סליחה, כמה זה עולה? You don't even need to know the name of each thing you are interested in. You can just use ze, which means this. So it's super easy. Usually the clerk will answer by only saying the amount it costs. For example, 89 shekel, 30 shekel, 100 shekel, etc. What number is 89? I'm not telling you. Okay, it's 89. 89 shekel. It costs 89 shekel. Now it's time for Yana's insights. A quicker way to ask how much is kama ze, which literally means how much. Even when you ask for a coffee at the counter, you can ask the cashier. קפה אחד בבקשה, כמה זה? One coffee please. How much is it? קפה אחד, בבקשה. כמה זה? At this point, can you count shekel in Hebrew? We are going to learn how to do this and much more in the next lesson. I'll be waiting for you in our next עברית ב3 דקות lesson. להתראות.
Hi everybody, Edith here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Hebrew questions. The question for this lesson is, how can I tell what the plural forms of Hebrew nouns are? In order to understand plural nouns, you'll need to learn how nouns in Hebrew work first. All nouns are either masculine or feminine, and their gender depends on the last letter of the Hebrew word. Sounds confusing? Don't worry, we'll break it down in this lesson. Most feminine nouns end in the letters taf, t, or hey, h, while most masculine nouns end in any other letter. The plural form of the nouns is just as easy to remember. The basic rule is that feminine nouns change the last letter to the letters vav, taf, ot, while masculine nouns get an extra yod mem at the end, im. Let's do some examples so you can learn how to make plural nouns correctly in Hebrew. First, let's take the word lamp, which in Hebrew is menorah. Lamp ends in hey, so it's feminine. To make a feminine noun plural, we simply remove the hey and add vav taf, ot, and get the word menorot, meaning lamps. Let's do another example with a masculine noun. The word for bag in Hebrew is tik. Tik is a masculine noun, so we just add yud mem, im, at the end, and we get tikim, meaning bags. So far, so good. But of course, there are some exceptions. Some nouns get the opposite gender ending in the plural form. For example, the word ant in Hebrew is nemala. It ends in hey, and like most of the nouns that end in this letter, it's a feminine noun. However, in the plural form, it takes on the masculine ending, so it sounds like this, nemalim, meaning ants. Another example is the word table, which in Hebrew is shulchan. Here, it's the opposite. Table is a masculine noun, but in the plural form, it takes the feminine ending, making the word shulchanot, tables. Unfortunately, there is no rule to help you figure out which are the exceptions to the rule. Hebrew learners just have to memorize them. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. להתראות! Hi everybody, Edith here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Hebrew questions. The question for this lesson is, what is the construct state smichut and what are its rules? The smichut construct is very confusing, since it can alter the forms of words and change all kinds of grammatical rules. Let's try to make it clearer. So what is smichut anyway? Basically, it's a way of expressing of in Hebrew, and it consists of two words side by side that create a noun. Let's go through some examples so you can learn how to use smichut correctly. Let's look at a simple example. The compound water bottle. A water bottle is a bottle of water. In this compound, the main noun is the second word, the bottle, and the first word describes the noun. In Hebrew, it will be pretty much the same, except that the first word will be the main noun and the second will be the description. So, in Hebrew, water bottle will be bakbuk maim. Bakbuk meaning bottle and maim meaning water. Some compounds combine two nouns to create a completely different noun. For example, the word weather in Hebrew is the compound mezeg avir. The word mezeg means temper and avir means air. So literally, this compound means air temper. In some cases, the singular form of a compound can include a plural noun. For example, the compound dog trainer in Hebrew will be me'alef klavim. The word for trainer, me'alef, will be singular, but the word for dog, kelev, will take the plural form, klavim. This is to indicate that the trainer trains more than one specific dog. In the same way, a window cleaner will be menakeh chalanot and not menakeh chalon. So far it's not so bad, right? Well, now it's starting to get complicated. If the main noun is feminine, singular, and ends with the letter hey, then the hey becomes tough. Like in this example of the compound cheesecake, uga plus gvina, ugat gvina. Another issue is the plural form of these compounds. Like in English, when multiplying the compound, only one of the nouns takes the plural form, the main one. Therefore, if we want to say cheesecakes, we will not say ugot gvinot, but rather ugot gvina. If the main noun is masculine and plural, the plural masculine ending, im, becomes a. Notice that the nikud appears on the letter just before the yud. We'll use our first example again. If we want to say water bottles, the plural form of bakbuk, bakbukim, will turn into bakbukei, like so. Bakbukim plus maim, bakbukei maim. Another rule the smichot is altering is the prefix ha, which means the. As you may know, when turning an indefinite noun into definite, we add the prefix ha to the noun itself, and also to the adjective it has. For example, the big bottle will be habakbuk hagadol. However, in smichut compounds, only the describing noun gets the prefix ha, like so, bakbuk hamayim, the water bottle. Lastly, there is one more issue, perhaps the most confusing one. Sometimes the vowels of the first noun change, like in these examples. Cheder plus ochel, chadar ochel, dining room. Bait plus kele, beit kele, jailhouse. Most Hebrew speakers don't know the complicated rules for this unique construct. They simply learned how to use it when acquiring the language growing up. For Hebrew learners, it's definitely harder to learn these exceptions. But the more Hebrew you hear and speak, the more natural it will become. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Leitrot! Hi everybody, Edith here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Hebrew questions. The question for this lesson is, what are the differences between all the adverbs that mean really and very in Hebrew? There are a few adverbs that can mean very or really, and this can be somewhat confusing. In this lesson, we'll review some of the most common ones to clear things up. The most basic one, which is the most accurate equivalent of very, is me'od. Like any other adverb in Hebrew, me'od should come after the adjective it refers to. However, due to the influence of English and other languages, in colloquial use, it can appear before the adjective. It's very simple. For example, let's look at the two ways to say a very big house, using the word me'od. Bait gadol me'od. Bait me'od gadol. Our next word is mamash. The adverb mamash means really, truly, or very. For example, really good could be mamash tov. In colloquial speech, it can also precede the word no to mean absolutely not, or no way. Mamash lo. The next adverb is באמת. It literally means in truth and is used to make sure something is true or real. For example, is it really you in the picture? Would be זה באמת אתה בתמונה? Unlike any of the previous words in this lesson, this word can also stand alone. You can ask באמת when you hear something surprising like there's a bear in the kitchen. באמת? Our next adjective is a lot like the word most, ביותר. The adverb ביותר comes after the adjective. When it comes after a definite adverb, it means the most, like in the biggest house, הבית הגדול ביותר. When it comes after a verb or an indefinite adverb, it means quite, very much, like in a very big house, בית גדול ביותר. The next word is the colloquial version of ביותר, הכי. This adverb means the most, and will always come before the adjective, like so. הכי גדול, the biggest. הכי חכם, the smartest. Our last word is one you may have heard before, נורא. This word can be either an adjective meaning terrible or an adverb meaning terribly, that can be used together with negative or positive adjectives. Like מאוד, it can appear either before or after the adjective, like this. נורא טעים, terribly tasty. מפחיד נורא, terribly scary. Adverbs can make your sentence much more expressive, so try and use them. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. להתראות. Hi everybody, Edith here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Hebrew questions. The question for this lesson is, can you use adjectives as nouns in Hebrew? In Hebrew, it's possible to omit the noun and use its adjective instead. To explain how it's done, let's look at some examples. Let's say you're at a clothing store looking for a new shirt. You've tried on a few and now you need to decide which shirt to buy. Eventually, you decide on a red one. You can tell the salesperson, I'll take the red shirt. אני אקח את החולצה האדומה. But since it's obvious the subject here is the shirt, you can simply say, I'll take the red one. אני אקח את האדומה. Unlike English, when the word shirt is omitted, it's not replaced by another noun or one. The adjective itself functions as a noun. It's important to note that the adjectives you use has to match the gender of the original noun. The word for shirt in Hebrew, חולצה, is feminine. So the adjective red, adom, took its feminine form, aduma. If you were to buy a hat instead of a shirt, you would have to match the adjective to the gender of the masculine word hat, kova, and say adom. Likewise, if you want to refer to an item that has the plural form, like flowers, socks, or glasses, you'll use the plural form for the adjectives, adumim or adumot. Let's put it all in one example. Let's say you run into a friend you haven't seen for a long time and ask how are her 4 children doing. She gives you a quick update on them. The older son is an actor, the middle daughter goes to university, and the young ones are still in school. If she were to say that in Hebrew, her sentences would have been much shorter, since the subject is her children, and the adjectives explain the gender and the quantity of the nouns. She will not have to say son, daughter, or ones, because all the information is included in the adjectives. Here is the Hebrew sentence. הגדול שחקן, האמצעית לומדת באוניברסיטה, והקטנים עדיין בבית הספר. Hebrew adjectives help you keep your sentences short and sweet. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. See you in another lesson. להתראות.
Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Hebrew ebook before it's gone.